Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Learning Lab today. You will have today teacher Jay from Jay Teaches, and I am Nicole Antonio, the consulting specialist, but I'm also known as Teacher Cole. And today we are going to kick off our new podcast series. It's called the Learning Lab to Teach, Thrive, and Succeed. So you're going to be growing with us. This is a whole new endeavor for both of us. So you're going to learn from our mistakes, and we're going to learn from our mistakes too. We're going to have a lot of fun. So our podcast is mostly going to be geared towards parents, teachers, and business owners. So we're going to talk about the parent side of online education, the teacher side of online education, and the business aspect of online education, because a lot of teachers have gone solo. So we are just really excited to be here, and I am going to talk a little bit about what I bring to the table, and then Jay will introduce himself, and then we'll have a fun opening Halloween session of myth busting. Online education. All right, so I am a business owner. I own Antonio Coaching Services and Teacher Cole's English Corner, TCEC or ACS. So I am a former homeschooling parent, teacher, tutor, and consultant. So I bring more of a holistic view to the whole online realm where I came from the parent side, homeschooling side, and then I had a private education teacher, and I moved into the online realm. And now I also assist teachers going solo, teacherpreneurs, building their brands and their online presence. I also help online schools help with their branding as well. So I do more of a rounded experience in that aspect. But teacher Jay brings a really interesting aspect into our podcast. Take it away.
Hey, everybody, I'm Teacher Jay. Um, I started teaching about 10 years ago online. I have only taught online. My past experiences, I was in the military. I worked for defense contractors. I've been to about 40 countries. I've worked in about nine, including some of the worst countries you could imagine. I'm also a parent and I own Jay Teaches, an online English teaching company. Um, yeah, that's it.
That's okay. Like I said, everybody's going to be learning with us, right?
Right, right. This definitely, we don't even know what we don't know yet, and we're going to figure it out as we go.
Yeah, right. So we are co-hosts. So we both bring a little, we both work in the online teaching realm. And we both bring different aspects of not only our previous careers, but our approaches. And we understand the parent side, the teaching side, the business side. So we thought it'd be really interesting to have a podcast that kind of addresses all of those things because they are overlapped. We've noticed that a lot of times parents have a hard time understanding the teacher side of the business, and teachers sometimes have a hard time relating to the parent side of the business as well, or how they interact. And we thought this would be a great way to kind of create some cohesion and understanding, and just maybe some solutions to our own problems in our own businesses, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. A lot of people don't understand that this is a business. Teachers and parents don't understand that this is a real business, and we have to treat it as such.
Yeah, the time commitment I think is very undervalued. I really think people underestimate that. Both sides, teachers and parents. I know quite a few teachers who I've helped out that they've really underestimated the amount of time and effort it takes to run your own business online. And then parents also, they think, oh, it's easier because it's online.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, and teachers,
It's
but
not.
it's funny though. It's not just parents who think that. It's also teachers. Teachers will think, "Oh, it's online. It's so much easier."
Yeah, and maybe it is because I've never taught in a classroom, but there's so many other challenges outside of just the teaching part. Um,
See, I have taught. I mean, not in a classroom. I've always been
mhm,
a private teacher. So I actually
right.
owned a preschool. And then
Uh-huh,
I had a after school program. So for the older siblings of the preschool students, they would come after school. And so I would do like basically like after school tutoring, homework help, things like that.
sure, sure.
And when I homeschooled, we did co-op. And because I had the preschool and I taught after school students, I taught some of the classes for the homeschool co-op for parents. And I have teacher friends because I used to work in a school district, but not as a teacher. Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, the in person is a completely different animal than online, like night and day. Funny because when I decided to move online, I just decided that it was easier to go work for another company and just let them teach me the ropes while I'm being paid
Right.
instead to learn the ropes myself and not maybe make as much as I could.
That's,
So
yeah, that's kind of what happened with me is I learned, well, like I never taught live, um, but I learned a lot from teaching at all these. I worked at several different companies and I learned a lot during that time. It was really helpful.
it was actually because they already had some of them, some more than others. I worked for a couple as well while I was getting going. I've always just been like an entrepreneur though. I always have liked to have my own business. So it was difficult for me actually to go back and work for somebody else just because I'm used to doing it my way. Um, having my inputs, you know. Uh,
Mhm.
but it was really nice though because they taught me all the ropes, and then it was much easier for me to transition into that realm. And once I felt like I was comfortable enough online again with teaching, I was like, sayonara.
Yeah, I'm like a totally opposite experience because I came from the military and then I
Ah,
worked at defense contractors. I was used to a very structured environment. And I would say there's a lot less structure now with this than what I've experienced in the past.
would be frustrating, especially if you're used to so because you know me, I do actually like my lists and a bit of structure. I like to have my outlines.
I-
I do, but for
I've gotten a little
me,
bit away from that.
uh,
I would say that.
I like it because I like having an idea. Do you know how many times I actually end up following the list though, or the outline?
Right,
But
right.
I like having the structure there to go back on in case, But anyways, yeah, it's been an interesting journey for both of us. See, now that was one of the things I had learned about you recently. I didn't know that you had worked in the weather field.
Ah, yeah. When I was in the Air Force, I was a meteorologist for 10 years. I enjoyed it. When I left the military, I took a complete left turn and went into IT with several different defense contractors and then eventually moved into management, um, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I got kind of tired of the IT field because every 2 or 3 years you have to relearn everything.
Yeah. See, that's what people don't realize about me. My first dipping my toes into college, I actually went to for computer science.
Mhm,
And I worked as a system administrator for a while. And yeah, that was my issue also with IT was um having to relearn everything. So my programming is really way out of date, right? So I
mhm.
can take care of my own systems and stuff, which is why I work so well online. But I learned very quickly as a system admin that I love the tech.
Oh
No,
yeah,
no
yeah.
doubt about it. I love my tech. I really get
Me
into it.
too.
I do not like fixing other people's mistakes.
Yeah,
Don't.
I don't like fixing my family's computers.
Yeah, no.
I dread it
I do
because,
too, because you spend hours looking for that one little thing that went wrong.
well, they don't treat their systems like I do. I'm very meticulous and I don't have a lot of nonsense on my computer. Um,
Yeah, and having to do the cleanup to get it to work
right,
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
right,
get that. So
yeah,
that's where you and I had a lot of common ground was is that
right.
we understood that in the manager side. So yeah.
We could turn any conversation into an IT conversation.
I know, right? That was a lot of fun. Um, well, that's another subject to bring up. Surprisingly, a lot of teachers have found switching to online daunting because
Right,
of the learning gap, because we are so used to having books and paper in the classroom. As much as they are trying to bring in the technology, it is still very heavily, paper based, book based, hands
right.
on based, right? Which is great. Um, but that's one of the things I've noticed is a huge struggle. Parents also, some of the older generations, they've also struggled with assisting their students to go online.
They're terrified of the technology,
Mm-mm.
terrified of it, or not
Uh,
really terrified, but maybe hesitant.
yeah.
I think.
And then in my experience, a lot of the parents will rely on me to help them navigate their systems from the other side of the computer.
Yeah, that's a problem because I've never seen the other side. I don't know what it looks like, you know?
And
Um,
I think parents misunderstand that a lot.
right, right,
And
right,
it's frustrating because it's like, I want to help you. I really do. But I don't know what you're seeing on your computer. And
right,
I don't know your system. And I don't know what
right.
you've added to that system,
Hmm.
which people don't realize makes a difference.
Right.
Right. Yeah, so that's one of the myths is that your teacher is your IT technician
Yeah, sometimes,
to
sometimes.
repair your system. I do though, as a teacher, and with the knowledge I do have, I do make videos on how to use the software for my parents.
Oh, you do. That's a
Yeah,
pretty good
I
idea.
do. I have learned because there's a big difference from the view that you and I see as the host
Right,
than there is from the participant.
right.
And so what I'll do is sometimes what I'll do is I'll join as the host from my cell phone. And then
From another device.
yeah,
Right.
and or like my tablet, and then I'll join from my main computer as a participant, and I'll make a video from my side using like OBS or something.
I had to go buy an iPad just so I could see, because a lot of students use iPads in class. I have a tablet, but it's not an iPad. I had to go buy one so that I would see what the students see, because I don't have any idea what it looks like on an iPad.
Oh, that's funny because I also do cell phone videos
Hmm. Hmm.
of my cell phone screen. So I have videos on how to use the software on my laptop PC.
Hmm.
And then I have videos on how to use it on the cell phone as well. Yes, I've done this because it actually did make my life easier. And then I realized that like it's a 50-50 on who's using Android or PC and who's using, Apple and
Right.
iPhones. So what I did is I found a parent that was a bit tech savvy to make the videos for me on her screen.
Hmm. Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, and I have a brand ambassador. So that's one of my marketing strategies. I have a brand ambassador, and she's pretty tech savvy. So I ask her to do it for me, and yeah, she gets a hefty discount on her packages, anyways. But yeah, that's another thing you can do is you can ask the parents to show you their site if they happen to know it. I actually had a teacher also once. I asked in a group of teachers who had Mac, who had Apple, and who
Mhm.
didn't, and I asked them for videos too. Pretty cool, huh?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that
Yeah,
works.
so that's
That
that's
works.
one of the things that your teachers can do is they can, create the videos. But I've had some interesting like, teacher, how do I fix this? How do I fix that? And I'm like,
I don't know.
YouTube. I was like, my answer
Right.
was YouTube. I was like, but I have sent off YouTube links when I
What
found like
what I've done is I don't create videos for the parents, but I'll create a document with screenshots.
I've done
And
that.
most of my students come from Chinese speaking countries. So I just translate it. The translation's probably not perfect, but it's good enough to walk them through the process, like my payment method. I have to
Ah,
send everybody. all my students a document with screenshots telling them how to go through the process. And usually that's enough. Usually that's enough.
I've only done the videos for the in-class software.
Yeah, I've done that. I haven't had many problems with, but it's always been the payment for me. It's always
Well,
been,
I had to do it for what was it? I think one of them was for using the pen.
oh
A
my
lot.
gosh, yes,
Yeah, so the
yes,
annotate feature, I have a video for the
yes.
annotate feature. Oh, I had a video for resizing your screen because they kept asking me to resize the screen for them. I thought that was funny.
Oh, make the text bigger. Make
Well,
the
not
text
it's not
bigger, you
just the
mean?
text, no, like the actual
Oh, the little
video,
window. Okay,
right? And I
gotcha,
went,
gotcha.
I don't control that. Like there
You
so
can do
and
that.
yeah, and then I realized that where I'm seeing it is not the same as where they're seeing it. So
Right.
I made a video for it.
Mhm,
But the one with the document, yeah, I've done that for my website because they have to join as a member, which is free.
mhm.
And then when you're a member, you can then book, right? Because I have a scheduling software for all my
Right.
teachers. And so I did the same thing where it was like a screenshot and then it had the description.
Mhm.
And the same thing, my brand ambassador, it's part of her discount thing is she'll do certain things for me. Like when I post in my TCC parents group in
Mhm.
line, she will translate it into Chinese.
Gotcha.
So she'll
Oh, that's
she'll
helpful.
so I don't even do it. I just put the English and if she sees it, she'll retranslate it. Um, so she can run it through Google quick and then fix whatever's wrong. Haha. So yeah, it works great. Or
Google's our friend.
I know, right? And then I'll do the same thing with the screenshots and the description, and then she'll put in red the Chinese, so it works out really well. Yeah. So
Uh,
that's actually a business marketing scheme that you can use is to have a, if you have a large bank of parents, you can make one a brand ambassador where they get like the hefty discount. So I literally am selling her at cost. I make nothing. But the return that I get in what she helps me with is worth more to me.
do you put any like a number of referrals she needs to send you like per year, per month, or is it
Now,
really informal?
her is informal. I do have one that's a little bit more structured. So she is
Mhm.
one of my original students, her child. So I've been teaching her child for about 6 years now. So she's a little bit more informal, but she's extremely reliable. So I don't mind that so much. Now, I
Right,
do suggest having a target. As a coach, I suggest really having that target. And
right.
my other ones do. So I have them where in order to get their renewal, by the time their package comes up for renewal, I don't do a target per month. Now, some people do. I do a target per package. So they have until their package expires or they need to buy a new one to hit a certain target. So if they decide to wait till the last minute and bring in a bunch of people, as far as I'm concerned, that's still the
It's
same
the
amount.
same thing,
It's
right?
the
It's the
same
same
thing,
thing.
right?
Doesn't matter when they come as long as they come.
So that would really just depend on your more along the lines on what your payment schedule is. So if you have people pay
Mhm.
monthly, then they would have a monthly target. If you have people pay quarterly, they have a quarterly target, or a yearly, they have a yearly target, right? So she does that for me. But she posts things like in all the different like parent groups in their language. So I don't have to worry about
Mhm.
any of that. She'll post her videos of our classes and she'll bring people in and she gets I give out referral bonuses as well. So she gets a discount plus a referral bonus. Um, and like whenever we do special packages or special
Mhm.
discounts, so she does a lot, to be honest. She's pretty on top of it and I really appreciate that a lot. That actually was one of the better things that I ever did was making a brand ambassador. I really liked that a
Sure.
lot. It helped.
I have a couple. I have one in China and one in Taiwan, but they're very informal. It's very informal, right?
Can be.
I'm gonna probably keep it that way with them. I'm gonna probably keep it that way with them. They work mostly just by referring students to me, and they've been really good for me. They've been really good. One of them sent me 5 students this summer.
Oh, I had an influx of like 20 students one time, and it was all from
Mhm.
that one brand ambassador.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like I said, keeping this particular one informal has worked out extremely well for me. She has brought me in more clientels, referrals than anybody ever has. So I think it really just depends on the relationship that you have with your parents, to be honest. I think the better you
Right.
have a relationship with them, the more they're willing to do for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, uh, that's one of my key things is I always make sure I have a strong relationship with the parents. And I want them to know that I'm on their team. I'm on their team. We're on the same team, actually. We're on the same team.
Yeah, I funny enough, I don't know, maybe it's because my kids are grown up. Um, but that's one of the key things is I'm on their team. And it's funny because some of them have realized like I homeschooled or that my kids are grown. And so they'll ask me questions, which I never expected that as the teacher. They'll ask me like, teacher, how do you handle this like behavioral issue? Or, like this thing like in their class, well, not in their class, but like at home. I know, right? And I'm like,
Right.
I mean, I don't mind, but I undervalued how much my parents would value my actual parenting experience.
Right. And I'm really cautious when I give that kind of advice out because my parenting style is probably a lot different than theirs.
I preface
Probably.
that as well. Yeah, I do say that, okay, now remember my children are grown. And so, and I'm from another country. So,
Mhm.
a lot of there'll be cultural differences. And they actually tell me, no, no, it's okay. I just want to know. And I said, well, this is how I did it back then. And if I were to do it again now, because sometimes there's a difference, hindsight is 2020. Uh, if I were to
Right.
do it now, this is probably what I would do. Um, but you need to take into account, your cultural. But I really underestimated, really, that was one of the shocking things for me. I really underestimated how much some of the parents would value my own parenting experience.
Yeah, and I've had the benefit. I have 2 older daughters, in their 20s, but I also now have a 9-year-old son. So I learned from all the everything, all
Ah,
how bad I messed up my 2 daughters. My my son gets the benefit of that.
so he's gotten the benefit of you learning your lessons, is what you're saying?
Right now if I say if you don't do this, you're going to lose your phone or your tablet for a week. Now I know I got to follow through. I got to follow through.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned that because where I'm staying, um, I have now quite a couple godchildren
Mhm.
and a couple well, I guess culturally we call them grandchildren. Um, and yeah, so I've been able to reassess some of those lessons I've learned from my own mistakes as a parent when
Right.
I was younger. I mean, I was a parent in my early 20s, so when my kids were
Mhm.
born. I mean, I'm still a parent, obviously, but I don't have to be as heavily involved in the day-to-day life of my children now. They're
Right.
they're all mid to upper 20s, so I'm
Yeah.
empty nester. All right. Okay. Well, as you can tell, we're extremely informal here. So we'll be learning as we go, and we'll probably in the future more heavily edit our sessions.
Right.
But I don't know. Let's see. Let's see how it works out. Maybe people will like our little conversations that we're having. Who knows?
Yeah.
Everybody's going to learn with us, right?
I'm looking forward to when we bring on guests, which could be parents, students, other teachers, other
Business
they may or
owners.
may not be solo, and then other people that are involved in the teaching business. I'm looking forward to that a lot.
I am
Looking forward to
too.
that.
I think it would be really cool to get the different point of views, but also to let the other side see those different point of views.
Right, right.
Because I know when I scaled from being solo to I because I actually have a team of teachers, right?
Mhm.
And I know when I went back into that where I have a team, um, it was shocking to see that the differences, whereas like the parents didn't understand the teacher side, but the teacher's side didn't sometimes understand the managerial or business owner side.
Right, right.
Right. So I think bridging the gap between all of those so everybody can actually understand each other a little bit better would be extremely beneficial, which is why I'm excited to have all the different.
I'm fired up for it. I'm fired up for it.
I'm very
I've
excited.
got some pretty good guests lined up. Pretty good
Yeah, I'm
guests
gonna
lined
have to
up.
get some more too. I think I'll get some more on the business side for me. But yeah, no, I'm very excited about it. I'm really interested. But I want to talk about some of these myths because some of these myths,
Me too.
as a homeschooling parent before, um, I'm actually pretty interested in some of these because some of these I find so funny, but they're really people really have concerns about some of these things,
Mhm.
right? So one of them is that online education kids don't learn as well online as they do in traditional classrooms.
Okay.
Ah, okay. So that's a huge one actually. A lot of people do believe this. A lot of people believe that you can only learn in person with a teacher. You're doing a disservice by being online. You're not learning as much. What's your take on that? What's your opinion?
Actually, I did half of my master's degree online, and I found the online classes were a lot more rigorous and a lot more difficult. And the other thing I think is that um, if the kid isn't learning what the parent wants online, then a lot of times I don't think the requirements, what the parent wanted from the teacher, were addressed enough in the beginning. You got to understand what the parent wants, not what you think they want. What does the parent want? And if you don't do that, you're, you know, in the parent's eyes, well, my son's grammar hasn't improved enough. But you never really focused on that because you thought is you should spend more time on reading comprehension, for example. So if you didn't get that requirement from the parent and write it down, then you're probably not going to focus on that as much. That's kind of my take. Um, I do think they learn as well overall. In some cases better because in a one-on-one class, they don't have the pressure of being of having to speak in front of an entire classroom. It's just one-on-one. Um, that's kind of what I think. What about you?
I kind of agree with you. It's funny you said that because when I was in college as well, about half of my classes were online.
Mhm.
And I had the same experience. I felt that actually my online classes were more in depth than my in-person classes. I felt like we got more done. We talked about more. I don't know. I just felt like it's almost like I got 2 semesters of a class done in one semester almost. I think it had more to do with not as much of the distraction of being in the classroom.
And I always dreaded being in a classroom. The thought of sitting in a economics class for 3 hours, just even today, I just wouldn't do it.
Right?
I
Like,
just wouldn't do it.
yeah, for me, I really think, know the student.
Right.
Some students thrive online. The pressure is completely gone. And I've noticed that, in where we mostly teach is the Asian demographic, right? So I teach a
Mhm.
lot of like Japanese, Korean, Taiwan, and Chinese, um, from all those different areas. And I've noticed compared to the Western world, my experience, the pressure in school is a whole different level. And I noticed with like even my own students, sorry, my nose is itchy. My own students, the pressure isn't there online that they feel socially in the classroom.
Right.
So I think parents have a misunderstanding that you have to be surrounded by all these people to be learning, When in actuality, I think you're getting a little bit more of a targeted experience.
Right. You're getting exactly what you told the, well, hopefully you're getting exactly what you told the teacher you wanted.
That, yes, see, that's the key right there too, though, is that you guys have to be very aligned and very
Yes,
specific
on the
and
same team, same goals.
constantly reviewing it.
Right.
Don't just assume that's what it is. But I also think though that parents sometimes have what the parent wants to learn, what the kid actually needs to learn, and what the child wants to learn sometimes are very misaligned as well.
Right. And maybe the parents don't do a good job explaining what they want.
Well, sometimes I don't think it's really that it's not a good job. I think maybe it's just a misunderstanding of how to articulate it,
Right. Right. That's,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's, yeah.
yeah, I mean, because I hate to say not doing a good job because they love their kids, right? Right?
Yeah, of course they do. Of course they do. But it's a team, so
It is.
teams have to communicate.
It is.
And the only way to get those requirements is to really, the teacher has to really spend the time, might take an extra half hour, but to really flush out those requirements. Um, I think that's even more important with adult students. You really have to
Yeah.
spend a lot of time on that. I just, in the beginning, when I used to teach adults, is very different than teaching children. Adults don't want to be taught from a textbook. So you have to, with a textbook, you can you can go through each unit in a textbook and everything's covered basically. There's a little bit of grammar, there's a little bit of vocabulary, there's some reading, there's some speaking. Adults don't want that. They want something very targeted.
Yeah, it's a whole different experience with the adult realm. I think we could do an entire podcast on that, to be honest. It's a
Yes.
completely different business model. It's one of the things that with the coaching, because I have helped a couple of teachers, and it's one of the things that I've helped them with is the lack in having the process in place. So, for example, I have an entire onboarding for my parents
Mhm.
with a review system in place. And we have it all in writing what they want, where they're at now. We do an assessment and then we give them our goals and our plans and we make sure it's all aligned and we all agree on it before we even purchase a package.
Right.
Because a lot of times, what people misunderstand too, parents and teachers, is not every student is the right fit for your teaching company,
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. For
right?
sure.
And the only way you know that is by going through that process. And you're like, this is not going to be a good fit. I'm not the teacher for you. But I do recommend other teachers. I actually do that.
Mhm.
I have a bank of teachers that I'll recommend.
I do that as well. There's I don't teach a lot of really, really, really young children, like 3 and 4 years old, but I know teachers that do. And I have one that works for me that she will teach that young. She will teach that young. I don't generally, I have a couple, but I'm not taking any more of those right now. I send those to either Jenny or other people I know.
Really excel at that, but I don't take them on as much as I used to. I usually do about the mid level because I like to do a
Yeah.
lot of the debate classes and the discussion classes. I have a debate group right now. It's a lot of fun.
I I love doing, I I kind of go for that like 6 to 11 year old range a lot where we can their speaking isn't perfect, but we can develop a conversation. I can ask them more in-depth questions and hear what their answers. Some of the answers are pretty funny.
It's I mean it's fun. It's enjoyable. And that's part of what makes a good teacher, to be honest. I think when a teacher loses that passion of enjoyment, I think
Yeah,
that
if you
that
don't,
also might be why maybe some parents think that their kid is not learning online is you might have the wrong teacher for you.
right, right. Um, and The kids that I find are tough to do with those types of classes are the kids that are very stiff in class. I try to get them to relax, but there's just some kids that are just never going to relax. They're just never going to relax,
I
you know.
think it's a combination of not only being aligned with the expectations with the parent,
Mhm.
but also being able to make the connection with the child.
Right,
I
right.
think between the two, it can be an extremely powerful learning environment.
Oh, I
I
agree.
know that I learned way more in my online classes than I ever did in my in-person ones.
Oh, yeah, I never listened. When I was in person class, I just would sit there. I was a clock watcher, you know, and I swear to God, sometimes the clock would go backwards. Um,
Yeah, and all the distractions of the other students, I even preferred it even if it was a live class online like this.
yeah.
Because there was a little bit more control in the fact that it just couldn't go on and on and on, and we didn't actually talk about anything. So it was I don't know because we paid a lot for our college education,
Oh, yeah. Well, I
right?
didn't. My company did.
Yeah,
They
but I mean
paid
it's
for my master's.
still it's a lot of money, right? You want
Yeah,
I'm sitting there going, okay, time is money. Let's go.
right, right. Get to the point. Get to the point.
Which on the flip side is a lot of times the view from the parent side, right?
Right. I have had parents even request that I don't do the songs. Some of the lessons that I use have songs. They've requested that I don't do them because they don't see any value in them, other than the kid gets to dance in front of the camera, you know.
I think
Um,
that's an issue also. Yep. Not learning, thinking that the process is not learning. Because I think that has a lot to do with the difference between the educational system that they're used to culturally and our
mhm.
educational system. I know where I'm from in America. Um, we put a very high value on the time outside of school and work.
You know, when I was a student, yeah, the probably even because I'm a bit older than you, it was probably even more when I was a kid. The going outside and doing things with your classmates was more important for me anyways than sitting in class for sure.
Well, yes, but even now, I mean, because like I said, I have students in from like Korea and Japan and Taiwan and
Hmm.
China. One of them in particular, actually, I'm still assisting him. He's doing a 1 year like exchange student in America,
Hmm.
and I had warned him. I said, in our country, we put a very high value on time outside of school. We believe school is a job for our kids. Just like
Hmm.
we go to work 8 hours a day, our kids do 8 hours. So they might do 6 hours in school or six and a half. We expect them to have maybe a little bit of homework, but once they've reached that 8 hour cap in general, like combined, we figure they're done. Their job is done for the day.
Yeah, I
And
think that the social aspect, the social skills that are learned in school are sometimes forgotten now. They don't seem to be important. And I will tell you, my social skills helped me more than any of my degrees in my professional life.
what's funny is that I'm one of the people, and maybe this might be my homeschooling side, but I disagree that school teaches you socialization. I think it teaches you a false sense of socialization because of the segregation of an artificial only this age and this group, because that's not real life.
That's true. That's true.
So I think it's actually a bit of a disservice because you don't learn how to properly interact with different age groups, different backgrounds, different generations. And I think it's a holdback. I think when you get to college level, like high school, college level, that's actually when people start to go, oh, well, at least in our culture, because you all I know when I went to college, I mean, I had people who were in their upper 50s in class coming back,
Yeah.
and you had
Yeah.
everybody from like fresh out of high school all the way through,
Right. 18 years old to 55 years old,
right?
for sure.
And you want to hear a funny story? This is a funny one. I've actually taught in college 3 classes
Mhm.
while I was a college student.
Oh, wow. What classes did you teach?
So I was in, I want to say business algebra. My business algebra class. So remember I told you I went to school, I went for the computer science, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of the professors were from the older generation, pre-tech, right? So all the tech was in the schools, and a lot of the new books came out with like the CDs with programs now that they had to use. Like they couldn't literally teach just from the
Right,
book anymore. They
right.
had to use the companion software, and nobody knew how to use the software except me because I was the only one turning in the assignments using the software.
Right.
And they were like, "You know how to use this?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, it came with the book." I mean, like, that's
There
what.
was a,
And so
gosh, I
I had
remember
I had to teach like 3 different classes. I ended up teaching 3 different classes, 3 different softwares.
I remember I had to learn in a statistics class. There's some statistics software.
Yeah,
It's still being used today, actually.
that was one of the
And
classes.
I shudder when I see that software anymore. It was a bear to learn. It was a bear. It was a
Yeah,
bear.
it was definitely different. But it was a lot of fun too, though. Definitely a different demographic. So like the questions and the
Mhm.
respect, um, the purpose behind people being there and the way that they treated the class was a lot different. So deaf people were definitely more engaged than I was used to seeing. So it
Did
was
you see Did you see students that were there because their parents said they had to go to college and they were just there putting in the time? And then the older students were usually, I always saw the older students were a lot more active
yeah,
because they really wanted to learn. They
yeah.
really wanted to learn.
And they weren't afraid of asking questions.
Right, right. Even the dumb questions.
Yeah.
Even the dumb questions, you know.
This is funny because I know people don't like that word dumb, right? But I was always taught, and you probably heard the same thing, there's no dumb question. The only stupid question is the one you didn't ask.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I word it a little differently, but that's what I tell my students. I said, remember in Teacher Cole's class, there are no bad questions. The only bad question is the one you never asked me.
Right, right.
Because how are you going to learn if you don't ask the question? Because I guarantee you there is at least one other person thinking that and afraid to ask.
You know, I talked to a parent one time and I said, I don't remember the student's name, but I said, why doesn't he ask me any questions? And she said, well, because he feels like he has to finish each unit in each class. And I said, no, 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 I don't work that way. I don't, I don't work that way. If he has questions, that means he doesn't understand something and he's only picked up maybe 50% of the lesson. Well, if we do one lesson where he learns 50% of it and the next lesson where he learns 50% of it, well, 50% times 50% is 25%. That's how much he's actually learned in 2 classes, which isn't enough. So I don't mind slowing the class down. I don't care if we finish a unit or not. It's important that uh, at least while we're in class, you understand everything. Now, the next day, you might not remember everything, but that's where we give homework. But I only give it if the parent asks for it. If I do not just give everybody homework. The students are busy. I know that they have other priorities outside of my class. But yeah, I don't always give homework for that.
Yeah, I do the same thing. We are very specific, so homework is an upgrade for us. And if the parents want homework, yes. But I always have believed that homework is not the time to learn new concepts. Homework is to reinforce what's already been taught in
Exactly.
class. And
Exactly. There's nothing
I
new in the
there's
homework.
nothing new, and it shouldn't be difficult. And that's a
Right.
misconception also. A lot of people think, oh, it should be so hard. It's so hard. I'm like, no, 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 no. Homework is not intended to be hard. It's supposed to reinforce what you've already learned in class to solidify it in your brain.
Now, when you give homework, how long does it usually take a student to complete?
It depends on the scope of what the parent wants, but
Mhm.
on average, I usually think homework should take anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes to finish.
Oh, good. That's where I'm at too. Very short.
It's very
I
short.
make,
I am not your classroom teacher. We are after
right.
school tutoring. We are in addition to
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I consider this as
support.
a
Yeah.
supplement to what they learn. I actually like it when the parents let me know and let me see what they're doing in school so that I
Mhm.
can try to supplement that as best I can.
Funny, I actually sent off a letter of request.
Mhm.
The student that's in America right now, I knew that he would struggle in his English class, and he actually is his world studies as well because of vocabulary. And I knew that because I'm very upfront with my parents and my students that what you're learning as an ESL student in your country is actually a few years behind what the native students are learning in their English class as well, because it's the native student, right?
Right.
So I told them, I said, when you go to America, you are going to be surprised that their English class is quite a few years ahead of what you're at. But he's very fluent. He's very good. He's smart as a whip. Um, and so he came back to me. He's like, Teacher Cole.
What? What?
And his mom's
But
like,
math,
can you
he's
help?
probably doing great in math, right?
Uh, yes, except the story problems get him.
Ah, I had a student one time, it was a new student. So, we asked questions like, oh, what's your favorite subject in school? And he tells me math. I said, oh, are you good at math? And he looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. And he looked at me and he said, well, I'm Chinese. Of course I'm good at math.
Oh my goodness, he did not.
I still love that quote. I still love
That's
that story.
hilarious. Well, I mean, he just was, I mean, he's natural he's actually pretty good at math because he
Mhm.
likes to do like computer stuff. So he's kind of on the IT side. He really likes that kind of stuff. So he tends to lean that way. But for him it was I have taught them before, but um I've noticed a lot of my students, the way that they take testing is very different. It's very much memorize parrot, memorize parrot, memorize parrot.
Right.
And now the American school system has kind of moved in that direction, but we still the handwritten tests, they're still designed where it's not really the answer that's important. It's understanding how to critically analyze a
How did you get
question.
there? How did you
Yeah.
get there?
How to
Right.
analyze the question itself. The question itself is the main part of the test plus the
Mhm.
answer. And so he really underestimated that when I explained it to him.
Mhm.
So I had to go through a test that he did, and I had to explain to him how to take a test. So, like multiple choice, right? How we
Mhm.
analyze, how to eliminate, and then the two
Definitely
questions,
wrong.
right?
Definitely
And
wrong.
then like
It could be either
the
one.
and then you had to choose what was it? The most correct answer because the last two
Right.
could both be correct. And he's like, "Well, what do
Right.
you mean by that?" I'm like, "Well, let's look at the question itself. How did they ask the question? What clue words are in this
Right.
question?"
What's
And
what's yeah.
right? And then
What's
I
the
told
main
him,
idea of the question?
right? And then I said, "But also what because I'll do this with my own students is we'll do a little quiz in class or homework will be a quiz. And I said what really surprises me is that you guys are not taught that later in the test sometimes the answer to the question
Yes,
earlier
they give you the answer
they give
later.
you the
Yes.
answer. And but you guys will get that correct, but you won't go back and correct the other one.
Right.
And he goes, they do that? And I'm like,
Yeah, of
yeah.
course.
I said,
Of
that's
course.
why whenever I take a test and I didn't know the answer right away, I had to do elimination. I put a little dot next to the number because
Yep.
I know later on I might find that answer. And all I have to do is look for the dot and I can check that I got it right.
Right.
Or the matching ones, right? They'll go in order like question 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, you probably went in order and then matched it with the word, right? He goes, yes. And I went, no. And he goes, what? I go, you look at the word first.
Right.
And any word you know without reading the definition automatically, you find those ones and you cross them off. So now you have a smaller bank of words to match.
For sure. For
And he was
sure.
like it, you know, So yeah, they and I had to tell him like how to break down the questions because the questions are purposely designed to trick you because they want you to learn those analytical skills, those analyzing, critical thinking, cognitive. I said
Right,
the question is just as important as the answer.
right. You got to understand I mean, you can make a math mistake in the problem, but the understanding the question is
Mhm.
part of it.
And that's real
You know,
life because that applies to real life,
I
right?
think so. Yep,
Yeah,
definitely.
very cool. I think you know what we should do? We should have one myth every podcast that we talk about.
Okay, I'm good with that. I'm
What
good
do you
with
think?
that.
Because we've already done like an hour and a half,
I know, I can't believe it.
right?
I can't
Like
believe
we
it.
we we talk like it's just like, hey, best friends,
When we started talking about this, I thought 15 to 30 minutes, and I thought, what am I going to talk about for 15 or 30
right?
minutes?
Right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how we're going to edit this. I might just leave it how it is and just do the whole thing and be like, hey, you guys, this is us
Oh,
learning.
yeah, I wouldn't, there's a bunch of conversation that happened before. Obviously, we're going to get rid of
Well,
that.
yeah, like with the part where I need maybe part of this right now, or I don't know. Hey, we'll leave this on. Hey, you guys, we're learning. But yeah, I think we should do that. Let's do that. Let's have
Yeah,
like maybe we can start with a myth and then jump off of that.
yeah, that'll work.
What
That'll
do you
work.
think? I think that'd be
Yeah,
cool. Maybe
that'll be fun.
because I do have a loose schedule of ideas. We can kind of maybe match a myth to the topic.
Definitely.
I think that would be
Definitely.
fun.
That would, yeah. So what is our next topic?
Oh yeah, I got to bring that up. It's right here. So I have content schedule. Haha.
Navigating online learning at home. So this
Yep.
looks like it's going to be a parent and student focused podcast next.
Yeah,
That will be
November I
fun.
have a parent month, and then December I have a teacher month, and then January is the business month.
Okay.
That's what I have. You have that one. I gave you that one, right?
Yeah, I got it. I got it right here.
Okay. Anyone with a link. There we go. I'm going to give you the link
Um,
also just in case you want to save these links. And if I ever update, I'll just tell you.
the we'll probably have a battle over which parent we want to bring in next episode. So I'm ready.
Well, if you want to go first, that's fine. So we have navigating online learning at home, supporting children's learning styles, and preparing for holiday breaks without losing momentum. Well, everyone, I hope you enjoyed our podcast today. We are learning, like we had said earlier, and part of that learning experience is we completely forgot to say goodbye. So go ahead and join us next week where myself and teacher Jay, we are going to be focusing on helping parents balance online and offline learning. So you're not going to want to miss that. We're going to work on securing some of our guest speakers that will come on and talk about various topics and join our little, you know, coffee chat. I like my coffee, so, you might do your tea time. I do my coffee. And we are excited to have you along on this adventure and journey with us as we learn the ropes of podcasting and we try to bring together the different aspects of online teaching from the parents' views to the teachers' views to the business side. So we can kind of bridge that gap and have everybody in a more of a cohesive, supportive environment where we can help reduce those struggles between those three groups. All right, you guys. Well, I'll see you next week. Bye for now.